Secret EU files. At risk of AfD leaked to Kremlin, diplomats warn. Lawmakers fear Germany's far right could be abusing its ability to view a database of thousands of internal EU documents. Brussels. Access to confidential EU documents by the Russia-friendly Alternative for Germany party is raising concerns that sensitive deliberations are being exposed to Moscow. 3 EU diplomats and 4 German lawmakers have said German MPs, including from the far-right AfD, have access to a databank containing thousands of EU files. Those include confidential notes from meetings of ambassadors, where the bloc's diplomats hash out their country's positions on geopolitical issues such as plans to fund Ukraine using frozen Russian assets. The problem is that we have a party, the AfD, of which there are justified suspicions of information leaking to China or Russia, said Greens lawmaker Anton Hofreiter, chair of the Bundestag's EU Affairs Committee. Those suspicions are shaping how sensitive talks are conducted as diplomats increasingly factor in the risk of exposure. Budapest was accused in media reports over the weekend of passing information about confidential discussions by EU leaders to Moscow, claims Hungary's foreign minister described as fake news. EU countries already meet in smaller groups over concerns that less than loyal countries leak sensitive information to the government of Russian President Vladimir Putin, a European government official said. We're taking all kinds of precautions in Brussels to protect sensitive meetings and information, said one senior EU diplomat. But the access that AfD MPs have to the confidential materials leaves a giant, Putin-shaped hole in our security measures. We're all careful about sharing sensitive information in a format with 27 EU member states, another diplomat said. Whether because of Hungarian leader Viktor Orbán or because of the German system, we don't freely share all information as you would among your closest confidants in a setting with 27 member states around the table. That's the Hungarian factor, and that's the AfD factor. An ambassador cannot guarantee that any sensitive things he says in Korba, the EU ambassador's format, are not going straight to the Russians or China. The diplomat continued. The diplomats Politico spoke to said they weren't aware of these concerns being raised in any official capacity. More at the water cooler. The same diplomat said, adding, there's lots of chatter about concerns on the sidelines of meetings, particularly among countries in Europe's northwest. The AfD denies it passes information from the system to Russia or China. We do not comment on baseless allegations, a spokesperson for the AfD's parliamentary group said in response to a request for comment. A leaky system. Unlike in other national parliaments, all MPs and their aides in Germany's Bundestag have access to EU-Docs, a databank containing thousands of EU files, ranging from ministerial summit briefing notes to summaries of confidential meetings among ambassadors. The system was set up as a safeguard against unchecked executive power, a particular concern in Germany given its Nazi past. The documents, around 25,000 per year, are put into the system by a special unit within the Bundestag that gets them from the government. The database contains restricted documents, the lowest classification of confidential information. In principle, this access is absolutely right and necessary in order to fulfill our task to monitor the federal government. And since a great deal of this takes place at the EU level, it is, as I said, necessary, the Greens Hofreiter said. Experts also noted that the government is well aware that a large number of people have access to the system, and that this creates the possibility of leaks. Considering that EU-Docs is a relatively open platform with 5,000 authorized users, there is nothing particularly sensitive in it. The federal government knows exactly what it is feeding into it, said law professor Sven Hurlscheit from the Free University Berlin, who has studied the databank. But 7 German lawmakers or their aides who use the databank told Politico the AfD's access is a security risk. The AfD's apparent closeness to Putin, the
contacts between numerous AfD lawmakers and the Russian embassy, their trips to Moscow, their adoption of Russian propaganda narratives, and their deliberate attempts to obtain security-related information through parliamentary inquiries are causing sleepless nights for all those who care deeply about the country's security, said Roland Tichy, a senior lawmaker for German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, conservatives in the Bundestag's EU Affairs Committee. Centrist lawmakers have said AfD politicians expose information that could be of interest to Russian intelligence. That includes government information on local